Hi everyone, it's Rachel here from your Cobourg Public Library, and today I am introducing my very good friend and local poet, Holly Duxbury. And today we're talking about self-publishing when it comes to being a poet and being an author in general and doing it on a shoestring budget. And so I will go ahead and let Holly introduce herself and we'll go from there. Hi, Holly.
Hello, I'm Holly. I just released my first book called Phases. It's a book of free verse poetry. I enjoy poetry because of how much meaning can be captured in very short bursts of language. And it also encourages a lot of play with form and structure. I've been writing since childhood, but this is the first time I've really done anything with it.
Nice. And what motivated you to put your work out there?
Honestly, I read a book a couple of years ago that inspired me to kind of do something with my art, kind of art for art's sake. And I've been slowly working towards creating the book. And then over the lockdown, I just had the time to do it all in one burst. So I finished it up and got it published.
That's wonderful. And a lot of people might not know this, but you also have another job working locally. So she is not just a poet, she also does other things. So she doesn't necessarily have the time, just like many of you. So what does it, a lot of people might not understand what it means to self-publish a book. So would you be able to explain that for us?
Yeah, so in traditional publishing, there's actually like multiple people involved. So there's the author, which is you, the person who wrote the book. And then there's usually another individual or company that publishes your book, which means that they're the people who actually put it into a format where you have like a physical book or an ebook, and they'll often send it to a distributor. And the distributor is responsible for sending the book to the bookstores, the libraries. They often have websites that you can order off of. So the distributors are the people who actually kind of like spread the book around. A lot of publishers are also distributors. So Amazon is a good example of that, where you can publish through Amazon, but you self-publish through Amazon, but Amazon is technically a distributor and a printer. So they'll put your book out there and they'll print copies of your book. They have their own printing services, but they aren't the authors and they don't necessarily represent the authors. So,
All right, and then, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Basically, all self-publishing means is that you take on the role of the publisher. There's no person doing that work for you, so all of a sudden it's all on you. It's interesting because it also gives you a lot of freedom. A lot of publishing companies require certain things of you when they publish your work. So you have a lot more freedom and license with your own work if you choose to self-publish.
Is that what made you choose to self-publish, having that freedom?
Yes, that was a big part of it. I really liked the idea of learning the process and learning what was involved with it, but I also really liked the idea of kind of maintaining control of my own work and having the freedom to like do things that I wanted with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how did you end up learning about self-publishing? Like what steps did you take to be in position to within, I would say what, like 4 months, put together all of the poetry that you had accumulated? I know you had stacks of it. And then figure out how to self-publish and do it, because I think you had mentioned to me that you did it for like under $100, which is insane. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So part of the way I kept my costs down was I actually designed my own cover. I realize that's not accessible for everybody depending on your technological skills and your access to things like photography equipment. So if you're great at graphic design or if you're really good at photography or things like that, designing your own cover is often a big expense that I didn't have to pay. So the cover of the book is here. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I learned how to do almost everything about self-publishing by asking for help and a lot of research. So even before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of research on my own. Google is a miracle worker sometimes. So I had a lot of help from people who've done it before, people who've written blogs, self-published authors, self-publishing companies who are just putting information out there for the greater good. There's a lot of resources on the internet that can help you on your way. There's also a bit of misinformation out there and biased information out there, so definitely be a little bit careful about who you're taking advice from, because there's a lot of self-publishing so-called companies that will put out articles and advice pieces saying, oh, it's hard to be a self-published author. These are the things to do. And by the way, we'll help you for this small fee. And they can offer a great deal of help, but if you're trying to do it all yourself and you don't have the budget to be able to pay someone else $1,000 to set up your ebook template or your manuscript template, then sometimes it's just better to do it yourself. Sorry, one second. I did use the library as a pretty strong resource. So one of the local librarians, Jocelyn, has some experience in it. So she actually gave me a lot of advice and answered a lot of my questions, which was a lot of help. And it was a foot up to figuring out how to deal with print-on-demand services, which is what you are most likely going to deal with as a self-published author. So whether you choose to go with Amazon or Ingram or any other platform, you're going to end up dealing with a print-on-demand service most likely. And all that means is that when you need books or when you have books ordered, they will print them for you instead of having to place a massive order all at once.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like what was your process from, I guess, from the beginning until now, where you're actually selling, I guess, locally at Let's Talk Books, on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble? Like, how does this all happen? How did this manifest into being what it is?
I guess the first part, and the part that sounds silly but is the most important piece, is to have a manuscript. And all that means is get it out of there, get it out of your head, write it down, type it up. It really helps if you format your manuscript the way you want your book to be formatted. Again, it does help if you have a little bit of technological experience, but if you don't, this is another place where the library can help you. There are people at the library who know how to help you deal with technology, because it can be complicated, and depending on what kind of thing you want to do, it can be hard. You have to know a little bit about file types. You have to know a little bit about different ways of saving documents. You have to know a little bit about formatting in different programs. So I used Microsoft Word because I am still a Windows user. And to do my manuscript, I actually set the page size to the page size that I would be using as a book. So my book is 8x5. My page size in Microsoft Word was 8x5. That way, when I sent it in, the pages just lined up.
Perfect.
From there, once you have your manuscript, again, it seems like a silly thing, proofread it 100 times. If you can, if you who are really good at it, have them look it over. That can be hard because, again, like, it can be really hard to do yourself, especially if you're on a time budget. But if you do have access to that kind of thing, then definitely use it. When you think it's finished, proofread it again, because it's probably not finished. This is something I learned the hard way. Yes, every time. You definitely have to be kind of flexible and patient with yourself. You have to, at some point, you have to give yourself permission to do this project and to commit to doing it. Because it can be easy to say, I want to write a book. And then it can be just as easy to say, I want to write a book, but I don't have time. I'd rather do this or this or this. And I understand that. I've done it too. If you do want to write a book, communicate it with people. Tell them, say like, I really want to write this book. This is what I'm gonna try and have it about. This is the theme. So I'm gonna be setting aside this time. Like, I'm sorry I can't hang out, or I'm gonna need to be alone this time of day. Just setting some boundaries sometimes can help make sure you have the time and space to be able to do it.
Mhm.
Again, part of the reason I was able to produce it as quickly as I was because I wasn't working during the pandemic. So I had more time to focus on it. Once you put in the time and set that aside for yourself, maybe even before the manuscript is done, you want to have a solid idea of what your goal is with your book. Is this like an heirloom type thing? You're producing it to spread, like to give to your children or your family? So, and that's all you want to do with it? Is it something that you want to be like a local interest community project where the only people you really care about getting their hands on it are the people who are very local? Is it just a passion project and you're hoping to make a couple of dollars? That's fine too. Um, definitely, definitely don't expect to hit the bestseller chart right off the get-go. It takes a lot of work and everything else. So if you want to build a reputation for yourself as a writer, that's an excellent goal. So work on that, and just don't set a goal that's so high that you end up getting discouraged and stopping writing or stopping putting in the work, because you have the art in you already, you have the words in you already. So it's just getting them out there, and knowing how and why you want to do that is important.
Well said.
um, ask for help. Like I said, reach out to your friends who are good at proofreading or who just love to read and might want to read your book. Reach out to other authors. So a really valuable resource that I didn't expect to be a resource has been Instagram. I've met a lot of self-published poets on there who gave me a ton of feedback and who were able to commiserate with me and give me suggestions and things like that through the whole process. So it made a big deal just having these other people who had gone through the process or were going through. They understand and trust me. I've never met a self-published author yet who is going to be unhappy that someone else is interested in self-publishing and is looking for a little support. And then just go for it. Figure out what you want, and from there, that's going to be the basis for everything else. So once you know what you want with your manuscript, then finding the places to publish and the ways to distribute are going to be completely reliant on that. Another little thing you do need, if you're planning on putting your book up for sale, you do need an ISBN number. It's an International Standard Book Number.
This is key, guys, so pay attention.
In Canada, which is, I only discovered because it was in like a random little blog post about ISBN numbers. In Canada, you get it for free. They will give you your ISBN number. You have to register on their website with the Library and Archives of Canada, and then you put in your book information, and they will review your application and then give you your ISBN, and it's free. It's easy. If you need help with the website, again, there are definitely resources out there to help you with the process, but it is pretty simple. And once you have that, you own that ISBN number. At that point, you can go to any printer. You can publish it anywhere you want with any distributor. Depending on the programs you sign up with your book, there may be rules around that, but you own your book. you are always the one who holds the rights, and owning the ISBN number yourself gives you rights over where you can print and stuff like that. If you go with a free one provided from like Amazon, or I'm trying to think of some of the other sites that provide ISBNs, Lulu I think does, there may be limitations on using that ISBN number on another site.
Okay.
But getting it yourself is, like I said, it's easy. They email you, and then all you have to do is send a copy of your book to the archives, and they even have instructions for that. So
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So did you have anything else that you kind of wanted to share with viewers at this point?
I guess I didn't really touch on the people who I chose to use as distributors. So the
Okay.
two that I chose, and I did choose two, I didn't choose one. I chose Ingram Spark. Ingram is the distributor slash publisher that works with most bookstores internationally and libraries. So
Okay.
they're the supplier for chains like Barnes and Noble, Indigo Chapters. Most independent bookstores use them, many libraries use them. They're not an unknown name. It does normally cost a little bit of money to set up your title with them, so make sure everything is perfect before you do, because you don't want to have to pay it twice. And then the other one is Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. They are free. They're fairly easy to use, especially for a first-time self-publisher, but there are also ways that they're a little bit finicky. Again, I chose both because it gave me a fairly large base to distribute the book, because that was what I wanted with it.
Awesome. All right. So if people are interested in finding out a little bit more about you and what you do you have a website that we can guide them to?
Yeah, so my website is hduxburypoetry.com. You can also find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Goodreads. Just search for H. Duxbury and it will pop up. And my book, like you mentioned, is available on Amazon in Canada, and Let's Talk Books is going to carry it.
Yay, we love them.
They're an awesome bookstore. I adore them. And hopefully it will be available on Chapters eventually, but we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. And again, if you have any questions or anything you're wondering, please leave a comment below and we'll be happy to answer that. All right. Thanks, Holly.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too.